Good morning. Oop, my eyeball. There we go. Fix my eye. Good morning. Welcome to 5amMesterScrum. Just mess around. A little Halloween eyeball left over from Halloween. I was putting in my glasses. See if anybody notices it, right? And I got my little scrunchie here for the daily talk. And this is 5amMesterScrum. Good morning. It's Saturday. It's 6:10. Been out surfing the internet, see what's going on in the world. I gotta get back to some people. I saw some people had commented on my LinkedIn page, and I haven't commented back to them. But I'll do that this morning because nobody's up, and it's great. It's awesome. I can get some stuff done. Hope you're all doing great today, and enjoy your weekend and have some fun and have some things to do. As we talk about here, practical and tactical agile ideas so that you can get home to your family and have some fun. And also make some money in the business, which I had to help some friends build some businesses up today, because as I promised I would do that. So we're here just talk about two things. I'm going to talk about some PI planning stuff from SAFE, and some just related stuff to the anti-bullying, because I had put that episode out there. It was pretty, got like 13,000 views. Well, I don't know. They got whatever they call it, 13,000 opportunities, and I think over 3,000 people actually watched the video. So that was pretty cool. So it was good, just trying to help out. Nothing set up with it, just sharing with everybody, giving some thoughts on anti-bullying. Somebody did ask for some solutions on anti-bullying, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit later today. So it's 5am Mester Scrum. Please like and subscribe. Hope you're, like I said, doing well. It is episode 103, and I will put out some more clips later today. And it's about 6:12, so a little bit later, but I've been up. I was wondering why my alarm didn't get up, because it was set for 3:30. I slept through that sucker. I don't know why. I had to get some work done. And I slept through that alarm big time. Though the cats wouldn't let me sleep around. So they woke me up and they said it was time to feed us. So, PI planning. In PI planning, they make a big chart, right? They make a big grid with features over time in the sprints. If you haven't seen it, it's basically a giant chart where you have all your teams on it's a grid, basically rows and columns. You put your teams for each row, team 2, team 3, and team 4 on the rows. And the top row is your sprints, sprint 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you put like your features, like which features you're going to have. It's called a feature board. What sprint you want these features done, feature. And then every other does that too. What feature? Maybe there's a couple features or stories. Features. Feature. And there's a feature. So I just do a grid with the word feature and a couple different points, right? And then they take strings and they go, hey, this feature here feeds into this feature next sprint. Maybe this feature goes up here. Maybe there's some external. And I ran out of room on there. There's some external connections down here in the corner. And maybe, this feature here has an external source. Maybe this one has an external source. And then you can use different colors. Like external source, a lot of times are red. Well, if you don't have a commitment, you make it red. I'm just going to make it red for now, just so we highlight external source like that. Like there's external. So I like it, but as a program manager, it doesn't really tell me anything. Because theoretically, my features can span more than one sprint, right? So like this feature is in sprint 2 for team 1, but actually I'm doing work. I'm just going to get rid of some of this stuff just to make it clear. So I'll make it bigger here. I'm just going to say there's 2 teams instead of all those teams, right? So I'm just going to make 2 rows. And I'm just going to just show like 2, and I got team 1, first row, team 2, second row. And there's my alarm at 6:15. Hey, wake up. So I have this feature that I want to deliver in sprint 3, right? But there's little stories in every sprint before that, and maybe there's a story in the sprint, all related to that feature, right? So there's all these stories in that first 2 sprints. In the third sprint, I want to release the feature. However, let's say this story, which we'll make red just so it sticks out on the screen. This story has a relationship to the other team, maybe working on a same feature, maybe, right? And they got stories too. They got a story here, story here. They get a different story here in sprint 2, and maybe a story in sprint 3. Okay. However, this little feature on the first team's like in sprint 2. Maybe they need something, but they have a dependency on this thing getting done, right? I like to show the story relationship. And the reason why versus the feature relationship from a program management time standpoint, it doesn't tell me who's got to be in front of what. And I want the agreement to be at the story level, not at the feature level. I mean, I know they all talk about that. So what I do is I know, hey, this team 1 knows they need some work from team 2, right? So even if it's sprint planning, you don't have all the details. You create a shell story, right? You create a shell story in a sprint. And then the shell story, you say, hey, maybe we don't quite know what we're going to code, but we know we need to do something on team 2 so team 1 can get their job done. And then you write in the shell story, you put it in sprint 1. So basically, you make an agreement between the 2 teams that we're going to do your story in sprint 1 so that team 2 can work on their story in sprint 2, right? And that's what you need on the agreement. And you need that level of details for that whole dependency chart really to have value, in my opinion. I mean, it's nice and handy that they identify who they're dependent on, but from a management perspective and a time, and without going down and putting a shell story in their sprint, in their backlogs for those activities, it ain't worth it. I mean, like, we can do it again here. So like, oh yeah, we'll put a shell story there. So we have another feature number 2 for team 2. I mean, for team 1. And on the next row we have another feature 2. We have another feature 2. Number 2. Number 2. And maybe this team maybe there's a story here, a story in sprint 3, and the feature's being delivered in sprint 4, right? Showed up sprint 4. And there's a story here. And for this guy, he has a story in sprint 3. And maybe this one also has a story that needs to be done in sprint 1. And this guy has some sprint 2 work and some sprint 1 work, right? I want to know, because they didn't plan it right, and they're like, oh, we got all the time in the world to do what the functionality we want. Maybe this guy in sprint 1 needs the work that they put in sprint 3, like that. And this is bad. And if you don't lay this out in the sprint level versus that big chart on the feature level, you'll never see that. And you really won't know the value and who's really, whether or not if you make a commitment to have a feature done, like in these 2 features done in sprint 4, but you don't go down to the story level and realize, hey, this team decided they want to work the story early to get all this other work done. But this other team, because their feature was lower priority, maybe didn't think they needed to work their feeder story until sprint 3 because they didn't need to do it until sprint 4. But this team down here really needed in sprint 1, and then maybe what will have to happen is this story will have to shift out, and this story has to ship in like that. So this story here that was in sprint 3 for team 1 needs to come in the sprint 2, and this story that they wanted to do in sprint 1 is maybe also moving to sprint 2, maybe sprint 3, right? So that's kind of what you really need to get out of sprint planning when you're talking about dependencies and things like that. Hopefully you don't have any dependencies, but if you do, that's what you really need to do, right? So that's why I want to talk about PI planning and just going from the feature level, high level, big giant feature board down to if you have any dependencies with another team, I push my teams. Okay, now you have a dependency. Now, what story from their group are you going to be dependent upon? And I want to make sure you have that connection before you leave the PI conference. So that's something. And then I agree that you have identified your risks, right? Without that, you haven't really done it. And this is 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. A little bit later, and it's like in the 6 o'clock hour, but it's Saturday. So, okay. So I want to talk about the anti-bullying thing. So one of the questions I had on the Facebook page was, well, what solutions do you have for anti-bullying? And it goes along to something I talked about before, and it's something I was talking about with somebody. A lot of people think they have to bully because they think if they don't push you, you won't get your stuff done because there's a history of not delivering, right? So they get into bully mode because your team hasn't quite delivered. I mean, be frank with you, right? That's what Scrum and Agile really expose. And I look at some groups like 20%, they have a overflow rate of 20% or something like that sometimes. And I'm like, well, you're 20% wrong. I mean, that's a lot. That's a C, right? It's right on the borderline of a B, and you're kind of into the C range, right? What they don't is haven't this you guys haven't established this trust yet, right? So they're really pushy. You got to get through those couple sprints where you are delivering on time to build that trust factor. Building that trust factor will help you minimize the bullying that comes down where someone says, I need this on this date, and you got to, if you got to build that relationship over time to say, I need this. When can you guys give it to me? I trust your answer because you have been pretty on target every sprint and delivered your what you promised every sprint, and that's a 2-week increment. So if you tell me that you're going to have this done, I know you'll have it done within 2 weeks, not in 2 weeks from now, but within that 2-week margin, I know you'll have it complete. So I'll plan like the next month to deliver something, or I'll tell you, hey, I need it. We're going out. Tax day is April 15th, right? So everybody knows tax day is. So we'll know you'll get it done before the tax day, and we don't have to worry about cramming stuff in. So, but the biggest thing about getting rid of anti-bullying is developing that trust and that relationship. Unless the person's just a jerk. I mean, I can't help jerks. There are jerks out there, and they're just jerks out there, right? But if you build that relationship where the team is delivering when they say they are, the bullying part will go down. And that's key why I emphasize completing your backlog and how that'll help accelerate the team. Because once you start doing that, then the people believe what you're saying, right? And the bullying should come down a lot. So I just wanted to express that. But right now, it's like if you get bullied and their business is demanding something, it's because they don't trust you. Your team hasn't delivered in a timely manner. You can say, oh, we delivered. Yeah, but you haven't delivered on time. I've had teams where, I'll give you just one story where one organization I worked for, all their projects were 2 to 6 months behind schedule. Every darn one of them. I come roll in. I get them to do some extreme programming, and we meet the date. We were right smack on date, and because they're doing a massive marketing campaign in one of the large cities in the country, and it worked, and it was doing good, and then needed improvement. but it was definitely MVP. You can run it, everything worked, the whole thing, and they started expanding to other cities. But they needed a refactor later. But anyway, we met the date, and then I had one manager say, "It was great. We met the date, but we're not going to run this way anymore." I'm like, "All your projects are 6 month, 2 to 6 month behind schedule. I just showed you how being agile will get your project delivered on time, and you did it. And you've been trying to do this for 7 years, and we did it in 6 months. Actually, we did it in 3 because they finally listened to me after starting, and they're screwing around. And I got them all in a room, and we did some extreme programming where everybody was in the same room for a couple months, and it worked. And the guy's like, "Yeah, but we're not going to do this anymore." I'm like, "Okay." So you're gonna go back to being late on everything. Great. Yeah, awesome. I left that place because that was just the final straw. I was like, I can't work here if I'm gonna be held accountable for being late on everything and you won't let me fix the system. Sorry. You like that, fine, but I don't want to be yelled at every time because why is your project late? It's because you're not doing the agile and you got people all over the place and you're doing waterfall. What am I gonna do? Have an argument with the guy? Anyway, it's Saturday. Let's go on a happy note. Say happy scrumming. You know, do something different. Ooh, change up your sprint. Your daily scrum. Just go to the dollar store and go buy something that just looks fun and crazy, just to make it different, make it a little fun. Just this little bit. It's like, what the heck? Where the hell did you get this thing? Oh, I picked up dollar store. It's fun. Play with the cat, dog, whatever. Um, but have some fun. Go out there and happy scrumming and have a great day. Enjoy your weekend and see you tomorrow. Bye. See you later. You